Here we go, session 2 of unit 7 of module 1. We're going to be working with partial quotients today. Remember, quotients mean it's an answer to a division problem. So we're going to be using um, division problems to help us answer other division problems. So it should work out pretty well. We're going to do that in a problem string. But first, we're going to look at our pre-assessment or our pre-test for Unit 7. And we are going to be reflecting a little bit on there, see where we need some help, see where we have some strengths, and then make a plan on how we're going to improve from there. When we're done, you'll have your student book, page 258, and your home connections, pages 133 and 134, to complete for next lesson. Let's take a look at what our homework was for yesterday. For our last lesson was page 257. So go ahead and pause the video and correct your answers. Make the necessary changes that need to be made, and press play when you're done. All right, now in your math, somewhere located in your math folder is a Unit 7 reflection sheet in your Google Drive. Some other teachers may have put this in another place, but we're going to spend some time looking at our pretest. So you need to have a copy of that pretest available, and then look at, and then have also open our Unit 7 reflection sheet. I just happen to have it open here. There's a link here for the teachers or anybody that needs to use it. All right, so at first, I want you to look at our math reflection sheet and remember, this is how we kind of judge whether or not we need some more work on some things. Maybe I can do things okay, or I can do this pretty well. Normally, I could do things pretty well, or if you get a majority of the questions right. If you get somewhere around half the amount of the points available, you could do it sometimes. And if you get less than half, you still need to learn how to do this, especially if you get them all wrong. Okay, here are the points possible. And then you're going to write down your pre-test score here. When we get done with our Unit 7 assessment here in about a month, you'll take and write your post-test assessment down in this column. All right, so now that you have your unit assessment or your pre-assessment, let's take a look at beginning to figure this out. Your first skill is I can divide a whole number by a unit fraction, meaning that you can divide a whole number by a fraction. Can you do that? Well, look at numbers 1a, 1b, and 5c. All right, there's going to be 5 total points on that. A and B are going to be worth 3 points. 5C is worth 2 points. All right, so can you do this well? Did you get all 5 points? I would put an X right here. If you cannot do it well, maybe you got 1A and B right, but you missed 5C, or you got 1A right and 5C, but missed B, then you could do this sometimes. But if you got maybe 2 of these answers wrong, I would say I still need to learn how to do this. And that's okay, because this is a 5th grade skill that you're going to be learning. So don't be stressed out if we still need to learn this stuff, because you will know this by the end of our session together. All right, the next thing, can I divide a unit fraction by a whole number? So can I take 1/5 divided by 20? Can you do that? That is question 2A and 2B and 5D. Again, 5 points. 2A and 2B are worth 3 points, not a piece, but 3 points between the two of them. And then 5D, is worth 2 points. Again, just like what we did in the beginning with this first one, reflect. Can you do this well? Did you get all the points right? Can you do it sometimes, or do you still need to know how to do this? All right. For the next thing, I can divide a 3 or 4 digit number, so 154 or 4,554, by a 2-digit number, meaning 24, right? And you're going to be doing this, or you had tried to do this in 3A and B, 4A and B, and 5A and B. There are 8 possible points with 2 points for each answer. Actually, yes, I'm sorry. 3A and B are worth 3 points. I am sorry. 4A and B are worth 3 points. And then 5A and B are worth 2 points. That's right. The points that you got should be located on your assessment. So go ahead and picture that. If you got, all 8 points right, I can do this pretty well. Maybe 7 or 8 means that you can do it pretty well. If you got anywhere between 4 and 5 or 6 right, and you could do this sometimes. But if you got more than 4 points off of this or off of these questions, then you still need to learn how to do these. So that's still a skill that we need to focus on. So now look at questions 3C and 4C. It says I can figure out and explain how best to treat a remainder if there is one. So that you're going to look at your answers for 3C and 4C. Did you correctly use the remainder? Did you need to include the remainder in your answer? That's only 2 points. So really, this might be something that you can do well or that you need to know how to do. I could do this sometimes. I guess if you got 1 point right, or one of them right, then I would kind of accept that. I can multiply and divide by powers of 10. Okay. Um, those were questions, if you remember, 6A through D and number 7. All right. Those are worth 10 possible points. 6A through D are worth 4 points. And actually, number 7 is worth 6 points, one for each answer. All right. So figure out whether or not, if you got 9 or 10 right, you can do this well. If you got 8 to about 5 right, you can do this sometimes. And if you got more than 5 wrong, you still need to learn how to do this. All right, now let's take a look at the next problem. I can choose the most reasonable answer for a decimal division problem and explain your choice. Explain your choice, right? So make sure you have a reasonable response with this. It's only 2 points, so if you got them both, if you got it right, awesome, you can do this well. If you missed them both, I still need to learn how to do this. Or maybe you figured it out, but you didn't have a reasonable answer for why you chose. I can do this sometimes. You're going to do this again for 9 and 10. So I won't go through the point totals for you. But for number 9, A and B, I can describe and explain patterns and the placement of decimals when you divide by powers of 10. So you know where to move the decimal when you divide by powers of 10, right? And then for the last part, I can describe and explain patterns in the numbers of zeros when you multiply by powers of 10. So what do you do with the decimal, or what do you do with zeros when you multiply by powers of 10, right? Still dealing with 2 points. Either you know it, I can do it sometimes, or I still need to know how to do this. All right, pretty simple. When you're done, let's go ahead and develop a plan to help me improve on my post-test assessment, right? You're going to put all your test scores right down here. So how do we make these test scores when we take this test? So what are some things that you're ready to do to make sure that your post-assessment is there's improvement from your pre-test to your post-test? Here are some plan ideas if this is one that will help you. If you know of any others, go ahead and write them down here. Let's just come up with a list of 3 things that you're willing to do to be better at this lesson. Okay? All right, back to Unit 7. All right, like I said, we are going to be doing a problem string dealing with partial quotients. So just using some quotients that we already know, or some division problems that we already know, to help us solve what these other problems are. All right, so remember, when we do now, what we have to remember, right, when we do our division, we are really just dividing the number for this first one. It says Maya bought 36 stickers from a roll that had 6 stickers in each segment. So how many segments? did she buy? Now, this is a problem we should know, right? We are dividing 6 into 36, right? And then we're going to put our answer, right? This is that array that we were messing around with when we had our hundreds, our 100 squares and our tens and our ones. So we need to figure out what our top number is, right? So when we divide 6 into 36, how many rows? Because I got 6 this way, 6 lines this way. How many lines do I go down to get 36? And that's what it's asking us. And obviously, we all know that our answer is 6, right? Because 6 times 6 is 36, just like an array, right? When we multiply, but this is just backwards, right? Because it's giving us how many is in our array, and then one of our sets of rows, we have to figure out how many columns, right? So let's go ahead and use this information and use it down here in this section. Control C and Control V. Well, that's not working. All right, so I will draw another square. So what if I now have 360 pieces in this square, right? What do I do now? How am I going to be able to figure that out? I'm going to move this down just a little bit. Maybe I'll be able to write. All right. We are going to divide. Now we have 360 stickers, and there's 6 stickers per segment, right? How many segments did you buy? Well, what do we know, right? We know that 36 divided by 6 is 30. 36 divided by 6 is 6. And we know that 360 is 10 times what 36 is. So all we'd have to do is find our quotient to be 10 times what our other quotient was, which equals 60, right? All very simple. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. The next one says we have 30 stickers, right? And we have 6 segments. So what if, let's say we didn't know what 6 divided by 30 was, but we did know what 36 divided by 6 was. So again, we would divide this problem by 6. Move that down to the bottom. And how would I figure this out? Well, if I know what 6 divided by, right, is 36, isn't 36 minus 6 one group of 6? Doesn't that equal 30, right? All right, so if we subtract one group of 6, that should be really easy. Now we just have 5 of those groups of 6, right? Pretty simple, pretty easy. That's what we got. All right, now how about 390, right? So let's go 390. So we have our group of stickers. It's 390. But what I do know is I know it's 360. I know it's 360 right to here. So then how much is over in that last half? Right? So that's 30 in this last half. So if I'm dividing by 6, oops, nope, don't want to do that. If we are dividing by 6, I know that my 360 is 60, and my 30, because I did the work here, is 5. So all I would have to do is add 60 plus 5, right? And that equals 65. Pretty easy, pretty simple, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at our next set of problem strings. Okay, we're going to need your notebooks out. Go ahead and write these down with us. You should have been following along and writing these down because Obviously, problem strings are not new for you, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. So knowing what we know, right? How can we do 330 divided by 6? Go ahead and stop the video and finish the rest of this one. All right, so now that you're back, hopefully this is something that you did, right? We have our square, because what do we know? We do know that 360 divided by 6 is, right, is 60, right? But we don't need that. We need 30 less. So if I go and take my, I want to make my line a little bit different, a little bit darker. Let's make a line, and all right. Well, that's not working. All right, so instead of 360, I need 330. So what do you notice, right? It's 360 minus 30, and that equals 330, right? And we know that 30 is 5. So ultimately, what we're looking at, I'll move this all the way to the other side, is we take our 60 and I subtract 5. My answer is going to be 55, right? All right. So now let's take a look at another number that's we're going to be working with. Is the number 15. So when I divide 30 by 15, what do I get? You still have to think, okay, I have my square, right? I have my square and or my rectangle, and I have 30 in my rectangle, but I'm dividing that into 15 columns, right? So if I have 15 columns here, or I'm sorry, 15 rows here, how many columns do I need to get to 30, right? And that's pretty simple, right? I have to make that a little smaller. It's 2, right? Because 15 times 2 is 30. So how can I use that information to help me figure out what 300 times 15 is? Well, again, as we know, 300 is 10 times what 30 is, right? So we have 300. We're dividing that by 15, and if our quotient is 10 times, not our quotient, but what we're dividing into is 10 times what the other problem is, then our quotient is going to be 10 times as much. So we know that can only be 20, right? But what do we do when we have 270, right? So let's take a look at what we have here. How are we going to figure that out for 270, right? Well, if I take and make this one group smaller, right? Now what I've done is I've subtracted one group of 30 to equal 270. Again, we're going to use that 15. And up here, what we've done, I keep using the tab button and it adds more rows. I have a 20 for the 300, right? And I'm subtracting 2 for the other division problem, and that gives me 18. All right, so again, so how am I going to use that problem? Here, I got to make this bigger. And I'm going to delete that. And how am I going to use for 330, right? That's just plus 30. Again, I'm going to use my same 15 here. So now I need another 30 to help me get to my 330 number that I need in the box. So I will first do my 300, which is 20. And now instead of subtracting, I'm going to add 2. So then my answer is going to be 22. All right, partial quotients, right? They can help us. If we just focus on the information that we know, it makes this whole process a whole lot easier. Okay, now for the rest of the day, all you have to do, make sure that you have your Unit 7 reflection sheet done. You can continue to work on that April Number Corner online resources, or you may work on the May if you happen to be in May right now. Also, your Unit 7 online resources, which are available through a link um, on your assignment sheet. But also for tomorrow, make sure that you have student book page 258 and your home connections pages 133 and 134 done. And that's about it. So if you have any questions with anything, like with the partial products, it's just going to help you learn division a little bit easier, kind of get away from longer division um, and your standard algorithm, and doing more of the mental side of it, because this math, if you just focused on the parts and the partial quotients, you might be able to solve a lot of this mentally, which is kind of exciting. So that's about it. If you have any questions with that, please email your teachers. I know they'll get back in touch with you as soon as possible. If not, enjoy the rest of your day, and especially enjoy math.